Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Aaron, and I'm here with Brian.
Hey guys, how are you tonight?
And welcome to episode 16 of the Cloudcast. We're coming to you live from our massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. This week, we're trying to scale Skype until it breaks. We are doing our first fivesome on the podcast with a bunch of the super smart guys from Dell. First of all, we have Joseph George. Joseph, go ahead and do a quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. Great. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Joseph George, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Dell for big data and cloud solutions.
Nice. And next we have Rob Hirschfeld.
Well, my name's Rob Hirschfeld. I'm the principal architect at Dell, and I've been working with our hyperscale cloud solutions, and I'm very excited to be here.
And next we have AD. AD, do a quick introduction and please tell us how to say your name properly.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aurelian Dumitru, and I go by AD because that name is almost impossible to pronounce. Believe me, it took me about 40 years to learn how to pronounce it. And I'm a chief architect for Dell Big Data Solutions at Dell.
Very nice. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Yeah, guys, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Very cool. Thanks for being on, guys. So, guys, before we get started, Aaron and I usually do, we kind of run through some checklists to make sure we've got our format right and we haven't forgotten anything. So let me run through this really quick, just checklist-wise. So OpenStack, yep, check. Open Compute, check. Open Source and Open Platform as a Service, check. Hadoop, check. Cloud Security, check. Cloud Hardware Stack, check. Cloud Platform as a Service platform, check. Own all their own server, storage, network gear, check. Building your own data centers, check. Anything that you guys at Dell are doing that I've missed? It feels like you guys are involved with basically everything these days.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting you pointed out that way. I don't know if we've actually been through that entire list recently, but yeah, we're.
Would you like our list?
Yeah, that was already pretty succinct. Actually, if you could send me a copy, that'd be great for me to have. We're changing the way we've done things. Dell's always talked about how we're transforming ourselves into a solutions company, and we've been doing that more and more over the years. But now we're really starting to see our customers and the market really start picking up on open source and hyperscale and cloud, and it may be news to some people, but we've been in that market for some time, and with quite a few groups at Dell. And now we're really just starting to go out and have our big coming out party here with all the things that we're doing with open source cloud, with OpenStack, and what we're doing in Hadoop, and the Crowbar tool, which hopefully everybody is aware of, the software framework we developed. We just saw just the other day VMware picked it up. So yeah, we're really excited about how Dell is coming to market and meeting the needs of our customers. It's fantastic.
Very nice, Joseph. So here, let me kind of ask you one other question as well. Let's say I'm just your typical enterprise customer, right? And I'm looking at this checklist that we kind of went through earlier, and it's an awesome checklist. But how do you guide through your typical customer through all of these options?
Well, and that's a great question, and the way we go about it is a little bit different. It is revolutionary. It is asking the customer what it is that they're trying to accomplish.
No,
and it's groundbreaking. But really, that's how it works. That's for a company of our size and with a portfolio like ours. Sure, it meets a lot of different needs for a lot of different customers. But the way that we're going and talking to our customers, the way we want to do business is really reach out to our customers and find out what it is they are trying to accomplish. Right? It's rarely about I want to do cloud computing, right? That's usually not what we hear. But we do hear about, I've got resources that are being underutilized. How do I make that better? I've got teams that are working on projects and they've got, a process that says order this equipment. It takes them this long to do it. I'd like to find a way to make that better. Or, I've got all this data and I'm trying to find out where I invest my money. I'm trying to find out where we put our emphasis as we deliver our own products to our customers. How do we solve that problem? And that's when things like OpenStack, and that's the cloud computing, and that's where things like Hadoop and those sort of things start coming in. Hadoop and OpenStack and cloud and all these great things in our portfolio. That's not that's not where we start. We start with what our customers want to do and where they want to go.
I would add that humility is, I think, a part of doing that. Right. One of the things that we do is we learn a lot from our customers. The DCS group where we started, where it was providing hardware to the biggest largest scale data centers, you don't walk in there like everything. You work with your customers and you learn from them, and that to me is important about cloud. Right, cloud is about change. It's about learning. It's about collaboration. And that informs a lot of what we do and a lot of the choices we make.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment, because I think based on the long list that we threw out there early on, and Joseph kind of going, yeah, we never really thought about it as being that big. To me, you guys are doing a lot of things. You're in a lot of spaces, but you're not as sort of boisterous as maybe some of the other companies are, which is, like you're saying, it sort of reflects the personality that you're trying to convey to customers, and you're trying to talk to them on maybe a less hype driven level, which is probably makes you very, very successful with them. So Rob, and we're gonna bounce questions off all three of you guys. We don't want anyone to sit there idle, but anybody jump in on these. But so Rob, let's take something like OpenStack. So you've been involved with that for quite a while. Personally, your group's been involved with it. OpenStack's an interesting thing, right? It started single customer, single service provider in NASA. It's grown really rapidly. How do you, either you personally having been heavily involved with it, or the Dell, the DCS team, how do you guys see it progressing? I mean, you guys, you announced a distribution of it. You're one of the very first companies, kind of very viable companies to announce a distribution. What do you guys see going on in that space?
OpenStack is really interesting because it filled a niche that we'd sort of been watching the market bump around and not jump in to solve, because it was the first, and there have been open source clouds before, but it was the first really open source community cloud where some big names lined up behind it. And I remember in the very early days, it was sort of a tentative one step after another. So there was a leap of faith to jump in there and do it, for Dell and for the other partners who did it, definitely for Rackspace and NASA. It's significant because it's not just an open source project. It's an open community project. And that's been a part of what I see as shaping it. So I think that the really interesting transformation is about to happen, because we've reached, I think we've gone beyond critical mass in it. And what we're seeing is an acceleration, but that acceleration is away from just Rackspace or just NASA being the developers. We've really transitioned into a community ownership event, and I'm seeing that in the community. I'm seeing that how it happens, and the result is going to be a lot more interesting capabilities, a big acceleration on what's going on. We're going to see choices within the sub project, and we're going to see challenges as we try and integrate all this work. Everybody's striving to get their pieces in and get what they think is critical in, and then integrated and tested. It's all an interesting mix, but it's happening so fast.
So it feels like the community part, the part driving forward, is got more momentum than anything trying to split it off or create too many forks to what's going on. It feels like it's going in a positive forward direction from your perspective.
Overall, yeah, I think there are challenges, and there are bits and pieces with that. One of the things that we've done with Crowbar, and this is based soundly in our experience with other cloud deployments, our career experience, we felt that it was really important that people be able to use it, right? That we made that our top priority. So to me, the value in OpenStack is really accelerated when you can get away from the people who are developing it and into people who are using it.
Yep.
And to me, that resolves a lot of the issues, the splits and the forks. It's if you're talking about working product, it's much easier to deal with that than it is a whole bunch of hypothetical forks and benefits.
Yeah, so sort of the developer's credo. Give me working code that wins the day. 9 times out of 10.
Exactly. That's I'm a huge agile fan, right? And that's right there in the manifesto. So
cool. So let me ask you this.
I'll probably add one comment there, just to clarify. What we announced with OpenStack actually was actually a solution that's made up of hardware, of software, and services. We want to be clear that what we didn't announce a distribution of OpenStack where we'd go validate there would be a Dell version of OpenStack. It's actually more community oriented than that. Actually, kind of what Rob was getting at, where we're taking as much of the open source components as we can, defining a reference architecture that where there is a level of validation from Dell, applying our Crowbar software, which we've open sourced as well, taking open source OpenStack software, leveraging tools that are open source like Nagios and Ganglia, deploying all of those things out. So really what we've announced and taken to market here with OpenStack in particular, and actually our Hadoop solution as well, is something that's made up of hardware and software and services, but not specifically, a distribution of the software itself.
Very good point, Joseph. Very good point.
Okay, so it's a good point, because like you said, it's very much aligned to what you're doing as well for Hadoop. It's very solution driven. It's not just a piece of anything.
Correct.
Rob, let me ask
actually
you.
One of our first lessons was that cloud is not just one thing, right? It's not just one piece of software. It's not just one component. You really have to have all the pieces brought together, right? And that was a hard lesson when we tried to do it the other way. So I think that that's something important for people to realize when they talk about clouds. So there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts.
And I have to say, I will be remiss if I didn't let Rob make his famous cloud quote.
The cloud is always ready, never finished.
Very nice. So tell me a little bit, Rob, about, is there a certain kind of applications that you're seeing your customers running on OpenStack? Is it all just web applications? Tell us a little bit more about how the OpenStack is actually being used.
Interesting question. I wish it was that simple. We're seeing customers who actually there is sort of the simple model from people are looking for OpenStack to provide an alternative to public cloud, right? And in some cases, it's providers who want to offer their own public cloud. And we're seeing OpenStack really providing an opportunity for hybriding. Creating a cloud there where you mix public capability, private capability, hosted capability. That's not all there yet, but it's coming. The same thing. I think in public cloud, you'll see a lot of web applications because it's a natural fit. But it's certainly not the only thing we're seeing. We're seeing companies that have just a need to run their own internal applications, stand up whatever they're running in the public cloud, and they just want to get control of. It's not that cut and dry.
Let's switch gears a little bit because I don't want AD to think we're neglecting him. So the other sort of big topic that tends to come up when we talk about cloud, it's some of it's web applications. The other side of the discussion tends to be around big data, whatever people's definition of big data is. You guys just made a big joint announcement with Cloudera solution around big data and Hadoop. Talk about what that means. I mean, you'll hear some people say, big data is huge and it's driving, new ways for businesses to ask questions. And then the other side of the discussion tends to be, how is this really any different than business intelligence, data warehousing, analytics for the last, 5, 6, 7 years? Living now in the Hadoop world, AD, what's different about this?
Well, actually, there are a couple of differences. One is the volume of data. 2 is the diversity, the variety of that data. And 3 is the speed at which that data is changing. And, I want to take a step back and say that Dell has actually been in the big data space for about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. We just happened when we announced the Cloudera solution, but over the last 5 years, Dell, as you know, has a long history providing hardware for hyperscale data centers. Matter of fact, it is our hardware that runs some of the largest cloud deployments in the world. Microsoft, Amazon, Yahoo, just to name a few. Having the kind of expertise that it takes to deliver highly efficient and hyperdense hardware for the cloud actually allowed us to enter the cloud application space with tested and proven solutions. And over the years, we actually done several end-to-end solutions. We've done in the cloud space, we've done Joint Cloud, we've done the Canonical Cloud, and in the big data space, we actually done the Asset Data and the Greenplum solutions. And how we learned about Hadoop about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, customers came to us with something that we call Hadoop. And what we did, we actually did several roundtables and with customers, and we realized that in order to have a solid Hadoop solution offering, our approach actually should be to provide an end-to-end solution. In other words, something that we deliver to the customer, and the customer doesn't wonder what else is missing. So we deliver everything that they need to be production with a Hadoop solution. And also, it was at these roundtables that we learned that the primary distribution for Hadoop was actually Cloudera. And from their side, actually, Cloudera saw their customers buying a lot of Dell hardware. So that's how we came together. We signed up this partnership, and now we're delivering a solution.
So when you're talking to your customer, it's probably pretty straightforward to have the discussions with Yahoo or Twitter or any of the really big, or growing kind of web properties, right? That's their business. That's the core of their business. Those guys, that's what they do every day. But when you're talking to maybe your more traditional type of customers, you're talking to a healthcare, pharmaceutical, people that are doing, research, you're talking to government agencies. How do those conversations tend to start, or how do they transition from maybe what was traditional business analytics to, what's sort of falling into the more big data types of conversations, whether it's Greenplum or Hadoop or any of the other variations that are out there?
So what happens is at some point they realize that they have too much data, or they need to do deep analysis on that data. That's when they realize that the traditional data warehouse, the traditional data mart doesn't work, and you need something else. And for that reason, they look at technologies like Hadoop, where you basically can scale your infrastructure and you scale your data repository without the penalty of a license. So they look at Hadoop as a way to store all this data and eventually push only the data that they need to analyze in the data warehouse. But bottom line, they use Hadoop as a storage ground for all the data. And also they use Hadoop to do deep analysis of that data. And just to give you a couple examples, they do anything from just basic reporting to data aggregation, data integration, and even data quality. So there are a variety of use cases and a variety of actually problems that are being solved on Hadoop. And like I said, it's not just Hadoop by itself. Sometimes we see Hadoop working in collaboration with the data warehouse.
Yeah, and you've got a really good video out on the web that sort of talks about that for a few minutes. I think we'll have that linked in our show notes for folks who want to go see it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite topics.
So Joseph, let me come back to you for a second. You guys are working in a bunch of different spaces. We talked about a lot of the things you're doing. How does Dell pull all these things together? Because obviously, if you're doing solution work, and you're having a conversation with a customer that starts off in big data, that may be kind of the tip of the business problem. But then there's this sort of the cloud-based infrastructure, the scalable infrastructure. Do you guys have a centralized group that's trying to pull a lot of these things together, or do they just hit so many different places in the market that they're all evolving and they're sort of running in parallel?
Well, I think we're at a transition point in the industry, and maybe even in vendors like Dell, where we have these great areas of expertise within the company. We have storage experts, we have networking experts, we have software experts like this team, cloud experts, and to go back to where we started with really trying to understand what customer needs are. We start with a particular problem that they're trying to solve. And, when the discussion starts going broader into other things, we have solutions specialists and, solutions technologists that will say, you really should look at Compellent as an option here as well, because that will solve your problem, in X, Y, and Z. There's some interesting things we're doing on the services side to help consult, to help you map these things out. So,
you guys are obviously taking the right attitude in the right direction in this, right? You don't know exactly where the technology is going to go, but if you're listening to your customers, they're typically going to tell you the directions they want you to go.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I do want to say there's not a centralized team per se, but if there are customers or if our customers come to us with bigger problem in terms of how they want to maximize total benefit and efficiency and cost and investments, we do have teams like in our services organizations, our top-notch services that can consult and say, let's take a look at your business processes. Let's take a look at how your business is run, what's happening in terms of the IT organization, and let's see how we can streamline it. And they're fully capable of bringing in all our teams there. So I think, like I said, it usually starts with a particular problem that the customer's trying to solve or an objective they're trying to reach, and then but often it spawns into other places that Dell can help meet their needs.
Aaron, we were talking about Dell either last week or the week before, and we were sort of saying, with all the things they've got going on, they're in sort of a unique position because, in the initiative where they're talking about building, their own hosting data centers. I think it's about 8 or 10 worldwide data centers to potentially host services. They're in sort of a unique position because they don't have maybe some of the channel conflicts that some of the other major vendors have, or partnerships. I'm interested to, from any of you guys, what's your take? What are you hearing from customers in terms of how they want to buy, who they want to buy from? Does things like channel conflict even ever come up, or who they buy from? Or are they just going, look, as long as I'm getting the right thing, I'm open to a lot of different options. Yeah,
this is Joseph. But my perspective on that, and what we're seeing from our customers is trying to get best in class where possible. And this is a legacy that Dell has had for some time. Obviously, we try to reach into areas where our core competencies lend to, and develop technologies. Where, like, for example, Crowbar is a great example of us realizing we've got some expertise in an area, and how Dell can actually develop some really innovative technologies to help solve a problem. But the other part of it is, we have an ecosystem, and we have a legacy of an ecosystem of great partners where we look to them to help provide some of the components of the solutions. So even if you look at the offerings that we were just talking about with OpenStack, there's a partnership there with Rackspace to help us deliver some of the services. There on the Hadoop side, there's a partnership with Cloudera to help deliver that, because these are recognized leaders in their spaces. Where Dell can help, is obviously part of it, in delivering some of the technologies I mentioned, like Crowbar, but also being, the point person. We understand what it's like to be there in the center of these kind of projects, and bringing in partners and relationships that we can leverage. We haven't seen conflicts really come up that much, because it's really being driven by what we think is best for our customers in that particular situation. It hasn't come up that often.
Rob, I want to come back to you on Crowbar, because Crowbar is a very slick tool. I mean, it's a very, very well designed in terms of the methodology that it goes about, not only set up, but, giving you the ability to sort of customize the system, but give you enough default capabilities to just come up and start running. Where did that come from? I mean, is that developed within your group? Do you guys have a set of sort of core developers, or is that something you built with a customer sort of in the OpenStack model? What's the
There's a couple things. The first would be a shout out to Greg Althaus, who gets credit as a mastermind for solving some of these hard problems in such an elegant way, and some of it, frankly, we rewrote 3 times. Crowbar literally went through 3 major re-architectures in the process of bringing it up, as we coped with exactly those issues and trying to make those pieces work. What we sort of stumbled upon it in a sense in listening to customers and seeing what was out there in the market. It started from our frustration with wanting to be able to bring a cloud up quickly, right? But we didn't want to do that with images. We knew that wouldn't work. We tried that. So what we did was we looked at DevOps, and we started embedding the DevOps pieces, Chef and Puppet, and really that was where we made the break, or I guess the break with conventional thinking, or the breakthrough that sort of became the heart of what Crowbar does, right? We took a DevOps approach to it, because when we looked at it, we had to do the full bootstrapping process, right? There's some tools that do that, but bootstrapping the equipment wasn't enough. We really felt that you had to have a system view and a bootstrapping view simultaneously. So that's it. It sort of came about from us starting from the very, very simple problem of, I have servers and boxes. I want to build a cloud, right? in 4, we started with 4, we're down to 2. But if you want to do that, and you're not going to tell people what to do in advance, you have to take an approach like we did, and then we refined from there.
Yeah, and actually, it's actually an interesting story. I love telling this story, because it did initiate with how we started on the OpenStack project. As you guys probably know, Dell was the only hardware vendor to be a partner from day one with OpenStack, which was good. I mean, we had some vision to see where this could go. But what the complex part of that is that you're dealing with very, very raw code at that point. And so what we were doing was we had it in the lab, and if you've done any work in this space at all, the way it works is you're installing this. You go in, you tweak it, you code to it. Then you blow it all away. Then you reinstall everything back on. You tweak it. You configure a little bit more. You add some more code. You blow it away. And so if you don't have an automated way to do that, you're going to be there for months doing this sort of thing. And so it was really born out of necessity, where the smart guys at Dell, like Rob and Greg and AD, that said, okay, look, we should find a way to automate this. And at the same time, when they talked to me about it, I said, hey, listen, our customers, that are interested at this stage, they're worried about the exact same thing. And that's kind of how Crowbar was born. Was there was a need for our own teams to be able to blow it away and deploy it very quickly and very efficiently and in an automated way. And then there was also a market need that was happening there, and the community need as well. There was a lot of people that were making an assumption that, okay, OpenStack is laid down already. Here's some of the things that we can do. And we realized that there was not a lot of people that were thinking about, how do you actually get, everything before OpenStack is actually on there. And so that's kind of where that started. And where we are right now with it is that, obviously, we can deploy OpenStack, on a multi-node cloud here in less than 2 hours with Crowbar. But what it also does is it allows you to have a continuous integration environment, right? So as new variables, new things get popped into the system, like a new server or piece of software that comes in, it recognizes it. It's aware of changes in the environment, so it's a continuous integration environment.
Right, yeah. And there are 2 points I'd add to that. One is we don't think that customers or us know what their cloud should be when we show up on site with it. This started before OpenStack, right? We've been doing cloud deployments. That was why I came to Dell. It's why AD's here, right? It's why Greg's here. It's what we've been doing well before OpenStack came along. So the pains that Joseph laid out were ones that we had dealt with firsthand and sort of had a chance to fix when we started the OpenStack project. And that's a significant thing, right? We were doing 4 or 5 cloud deployments a day.
So this sort of came out of necessity just to make your lives somewhat simpler. So I'm going to throw this out because we never necessarily know from an audience perspective how much people are able to keep up with everything. So Crowbar, if you guys go look at the show notes once we post this here in a couple of days, there is a couple of really, really good videos from Rob that walk through both how to install it as well as what the tool looks like, what the framework looks like, how do you set some things up. The other very cool thing, and I'll let you guys maybe provide some color around this, it just got picked up, if I'm understanding it correctly, it just got picked up by Cloud Foundry, or it's getting integrated into Cloud Foundry. I think is it also part of Ubuntu? Did I read that right? Or is it just part of Cloud Foundry right now?
This is really where the coolness is really kicking in now, which is that, the way that Crowbar is designed, and, Rob and I just spoke about OpenStack, but if you look at our Cloudera Hadoop announcement as well, you'll see Crowbar mentioned there as well as a means to deploy that, okay. and to configure that. And that's essentially what the VMware team did as well with Cloud Foundry. Was they picked up the tool that we developed, Crowbar, and they developed what we called a bar clamp to deploy Cloud Foundry. So very simply, if you think of Crowbar as a core and as modules, the modules we can refer to as bar clamps to keep that tool analogy going. You basically have a bar clamp for any functionality that Crowbar does. So if you're going to do a BIOS update, there's a bar clamp for that. If you want to do RAID configuration, there's a bar clamp for that. If you want to deploy OpenStack Compute Nova, there's a bar clamp for that. If you're looking to deploy the Cloudera distribution, there's a bar clamp for that. And the fact that we've open sourced it means that now our customers and the community can develop their own bar clamps. And that is essentially what VMware did. They took the bits, they're using Opscode Chef, they wrote recipes, and now using that core framework that Crowbar provides, they're now able to deploy Cloud Foundry with a Cloud Foundry bar clamp. When we announced OpenStack, we actually had a customer with us that day, at the day of the announcement, named DreamHost. And DreamHost is working on a storage technology called Ceph, C-E-P-H. And what they're doing is developing a bar clamp for Ceph. So you can see where we're going with this now is that, obviously we built it for, some specific solutions that we're delivering. But what we're seeing is very cool in that the community is starting to pick it up and see use cases that are maybe we might have envisioned as part of what our planning was, but we're allowing the community to start dreaming about what can I do with this tool. And that's the coolness here. And that's what VMware has ended up doing with Cloud Foundry, is that they're now deploying it. DreamHost is now looking, they're writing their own bar clamp. And I'll just say to your listeners here, we welcome you to go to the GitHub site at Dell Cloud Edge, download the bits, and start developing some bar clamps. I think the possibilities are endless.
And the reason I brought up the Cloud Foundry sort of tie-in, well, one, because it's topical, because it happened this week, but for anybody listening, we're having the guys from Cloud Foundry on next week, so we'll talk to like Dave and some of the other guys to kind of get where their take is of where this ties in. So stay tuned for that. But that's very, very cool. I mean, you guys are taking a very get it done solution level view of this thing. I feel like the show tonight has gone very sort of OpenStack and cloud and so forth, and we haven't really delved into the big data piece of this thing too much. We may have to ask to have AD come back and give us a deep dive on that at some point in time. The other thing, guys, and I hope you don't feel like we shortchanged it. We try and be really conscious on the show about not turning these things into commercials. I mean, obviously we've been talking about the cool things you guys are doing. We mostly try and help educate people about things that are new. I know, like for Aaron and I, half the time on these shows, it's sort of light bulb moments of like, oh, okay, cool. That's how that works. That's how that piece goes together. So I hope you don't feel like we shortchanged you talking about vStart or the Force 10 acquisition or any of the other cool things that Dell's doing. But I think you guys are highlighting a lot of the things that you're doing that are very, very cool. And like you said, it's not something that's been an overnight thing. It's been something you've been building towards for a while.
Brian and Aaron, and we really do appreciate being on your show. I think, and hopefully we've conveyed this here. Obviously, there are commercial interests that Dell has.
Sure.
And we are a business, but what the beautiful thing here is, I think that Dell, especially in OpenStack and what we're doing in Hadoop and contributing to open source, we're participating in the community, and that's what's really cool about this is that we're not just taking technologies and applying them. We're actually looking for places where we can help, where we can develop, where we can collaborate with partners, with customers, with the community. And I know the team, and I speak for the team here, that is one of the big cool factors that's got us excited about what we're doing.
So, Aaron, I think this is about the third show in a row we've had where our guests are asking us to go off and find folks to help them develop code for some of the cool things they're doing. We had Isaac Roth on a couple of weeks ago talking about OpenShift, what Red Hat's doing, and he was kind of the same way. He's like, we would love to have people, kind of evangelize the PaaS platform they're driving, and so what you guys are doing is very cool. So, congratulations, kudos to you, all of you guys, and your team on that.
Great, and I did listen to Peter Udlander's podcast from last week as well. So I know he's probably talking about a lot of the same things. Yeah.
So same sort of idea, right? It's you're going to get more done with the community and the business builds around that. So, Aaron, any last thoughts or just sort of light bulb moments for the last 35 minutes or so?
Well, I think for me the biggest thing is I do really feel like, to kind of compliment you guys, that the light bulb moment is the checklist at the beginning of how much you guys really have accomplished and all of the different areas you are in. And it's not just hey, we're in it to like do an announcement and a press release, but you guys seem very active in all of these areas, and I was quite frankly a little surprised by it, and so I just have to say congratulations to you guys. I really think you're putting together a nice model here, and that's very nice to see.
Great.
And I think Rob nailed it early on. It's sort of very complete but very humble. Go out, be good at what you do, and help people solve business problems. That's very cool.
Yeah, great. Then thanks for the compliment, guys. And we are working hard to try and learn from our customers, and I think it'll take us all good places. The entire community will go the good places as a result.
Very nice.
Listen, Aaron, before you take us out of here, Joseph and Rob and AD, if people want to follow the stuff you guys do on the internet or where you're going to be at some of the conferences coming up, where can they find you, either on the internet or on Twitter or blogs and so forth?
Yeah, I think all three of us are avid bloggers as well as regular tweeters. So I think all three of us should just go through ours. So this is Joseph, and if you want to read up on my blogs, which are a little bit more business and customer oriented, it's the JB George Tech blog, which is jbgeorge.net, and you can follow me on Twitter at jbgeorge.
And my blog is Rational Intelligence. If you guys want to learn the story behind that name, I can tell you about some other time. And it goes back to machines are rational and humans are intelligent. How do you bring them together? That's I'm actually blogging on a very deep technical stuff, not so much on the market, although once in a while I run into problems with technology. I mean business and technology, marketing. But otherwise, it's very technical. Sometimes it's very dry too. But I guess I'll leave that to the readers. Yeah, and my Twitter ID is ad@Dell. Very creative, I have to say. So, so it's easy to find. So feel free to drop me a line. Thank you. I'm Zehicle, Zehicle, vehicle, but with a Z, online on Twitter. Actually, and my web will answer to that too, or robhirschfeld.com. I talk about just about everything. Although I try and keep it light. So not just OpenStack and Crowbar, but also Agile.
I think the process by which we develop the code is just as important as the code in a lot of cases. So you'll hear me go on about things like that as well, hopefully with some humor.
Well, if you talk to the Cloud Foundry guys next week, Dave McCrory is from our stomping ground as well.
I assume you guys will be at Dell World and OpenStack Conference and Hadoop World in the fall?
Yes, you should expect to see us there, yes.
When you talk to Dave, ask him about inventing the cloud.
Inventing the cloud. Is Dave the father of the cloud?
Dave and I have some very old patents. It's worth asking about that.
All right, we'll bring that up again.
We will do that. Absolutely.
Very cool. Aaron, you want to take us home?
Yes, absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at thecloudcastnet or reach us at thecloudcast.net, where you'll find links to the show and show notes. You can leave us a comment or send us an email and details on how to stream us on Stitcher. Thanks for listening.